Welcome back to another edition of Research Fantasy presents our NBA DFS Fantasy Baller for Sunday, April 23rd, 2017. We've got a 3-game slate of basketball today. Pretty fun one. Let's start things off with Houston at OKC. This is the big money game in terms of where the points should be at, but there's several options that we could look at here. My big concern is still whether or not Oklahoma City is going to be able to hang in there, but really it's just been an isolated situation where they haven't been, so I don't think we really need to be off of anybody today because we're afraid of a blowout. On the Houston side of things, James Harden is still the guy that you have to look at. His price is high, and it's going to be tough to build a strong lineup around him, but I think he gives us enough upside that it's worth it. Clint Capella, Patrick Beverley, both of these guys underperformed in the last game. Doesn't mean we need to be off them. They're still important parts of this offense. Don't mind having exposure to them. Trevor Ariza has been here just on defense, it appears. Ryan Anderson isn't much of a force. So beyond that, we're really looking at Eric Gordon and Lou Williams. I think both of those guys are priced in a sweet spot where they could still come through with something for us tonight. I'll have some exposure to both of them in my lineups. Moving on to the Oklahoma City side of things, Russell Westbrook has continued to just put up big-time performances when it's asked of him, which is every night because they have nobody else who can perform on a consistent basis. So that keeps him in play even at that price. Victor Oladipo came around, still not getting to the point where he's really hitting that value on his price tag, but someone that I don't hate considering tonight by any stretch of the imagination, so I'll have some exposure to him. Andre Roberson, I said in the write-up, like if this guy played at this level throughout the year, I mean, this is a guy we'd be considering a value play where he'd be drafted at in season-long leagues. He's approaching 6K, and I'm still sitting here fine with paying that price because what he's been able to do. I get it that it's been based a lot on stats that are less than predictable, like steals and blocks, but he's continuing to do it, so as long as he's doing that, he's got to stay on my radar. All right, moving on from there, Steven Adams, just don't see where his upside's at right now. Enes Kanter, just not seeing enough time on the court. I think he's seeing less time on the court than guys like Jeremy Grant. I would prefer Taj Gibson out of the bunch still. I think he's still got some risk with him because nobody's really getting an abundance of time in this game, but he's probably your safer option. Moving on from there, let's go to Boston at Chicago. Boston finally got off the schneid, got the win that they needed to get in pretty convincing fashion, which I like to see because I was very concerned. If this game went to 3-0, I mean, I really don't think they were going to be able to get it done. 2-1's a different story. I think they're playing with some momentum now. Top dog on this team I'm looking at is Al Horford. Triple-double threat in a playoff situation, so you have to be mindful and respectful of what he's able to do on the floor. His price is more manageable than a lot of the other guys in terms of their upside, so I don't mind having exposure to him. Next would come Isaiah Thomas, just because he's got a much higher ceiling than anyone else on this team. So I think in tournament situations, which is what playoff basketball is, and you can't forget that, I don't think there's any reason to look past him tonight. Avery Bradley, priced high. Just, I don't love him, but he's going to be a guy that probably ends up making more of my lineups than I really want him to make today. And Jay Crowder, priced pretty reasonably as well. He hasn't really been getting to that value threshold either. Long out tournament option, Kelly Olynyk, just not seeing enough time. He might hit value, he might not. You could do worse if you're punting, but that would be where my exposure ends with Boston. On the Chicago side of things, they're dealing with Rondo being out for the next couple of weeks, so that hurts. I think we'll see a bounce back effort from both Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade, but I'm really looking at Jimmy Butler to come through in a big way here. Outside of those two guys, another guy I'm really heavy on tonight is going to be Jerry and Grant. priced too cheap on FanDuel. I get that he didn't have a good game. That was a whole team thing. I'm expecting a bounce back effort here. I wouldn't be shocked to see him cross the 25-point marker, and I'm assuming he's still going to be a popular play. I don't really know, though. It's tough to say with how people end up putting their lineups together. They might want to stay away from him, feeling that he's going to burn them again. Beyond that, Robin Lopez, Bobby Portis, and Nikola Mirotic could all end up having nice nights, so they're all on my radar tonight. Maybe Portis over the rest, because I think that people do kind of hang on to recency biases, and back-to-back poor performances and pretty decent performances by Mirotic might drop his ownership to a lower level. Let's end it with the Clippers visiting the Jazz. The Clippers, I believe, have a 2-1 lead. I'm not a believer that that's going to continue. We're dealing with Austin Rivers out. We're dealing with Blake Griffin now out for the rest of the playoffs. Not shocking, not surprising, which is why I will never, ever, ever draft Blake Griffin in season-long leagues, because I just don't enjoy players who only get out there for 60% of the games. To me, tonight, it's all Chris Paul, it's all DeAndre Jordan. Those two guys are really going to have to come through in major ways for this team to win. I think they can, and I think they will, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a high score from both of these guys, even with their prices pretty high. Beyond that, I mean, I think Maurice Spates is going to be a pretty strong trap play. All year, every time Blake was out for like 1 or 2 games initially, it was all like, boom, get Maurice Spates in there. We know what he can do. And that was true everywhere but the Clippers. When the Clippers were without Blake Griffin, Maurice Spates just never materialized. I don't have confidence that he's going to be able to do it in the playoffs. I'm still on the Luke Ricard and Mbah a Moute train. Almost 40 minutes. I don't care if he only sees half of that in production. That's fine. 20 to 23 fantasy points. That'll get you home. That'll make you feel good. Give you a heck of an opportunity to spend up elsewhere. On the Utah side of the ball, it was good to finally see Gordon Hayward step up. Am I going back tonight? Yes, price is pretty high. My main thoughts on this are LA cannot afford to be so defensively minded with trying to shut Hayward down, because without Blake, they need literally everybody on this team to try to step in and play better offensive basketball. So I think we'll see more opportunities for Hayward that maybe Mbah a Moute and the other defenders would have put a little more effort into prior to Blake going down. George Hill finally came around a little bit more. I'm on him again tonight. And then you can take your pick of the guys like Joe Johnson, Joe Ingles, Derek Favors. They're all in punt forms right now. Rudy Gobert appears to be a game time decision in this one, though it's not expected that he plays. Thanks for joining us today. Hope this helps you when constructing your daily fantasy lineups. Please hit subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Head over to researchfantasy.com. Sign up for our NBA mailing list. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Research and Win. And join us again tomorrow.